So a lot has happened in the Israel-Hamas War in the last week. This includes the IDF assassinations in Rafah that caused substantial collateral damage and deaths of dozens of Palestinian civilians, the IDF concluding its operation in Jabalia refugee camp and pulling out of the area after over 2 weeks, flare-ups in the West Bank, and continued escalations between Israel and Hezbollah. While all this has been happening, what I'm going to focus on in this short video, however, is a speech that was given by US President Biden on May 31st, laying out what he called a roadmap for an enduring ceasefire, i.e. a roadmap for the end of the war. In his speech, Biden stated that this is a plan that has already been approved by Israel, adding that it has been transmitted by Qatar to Hamas, and Hamas is now being called upon in order to actually respond to this offer. The plan, according to Biden, includes 3 phases. Like before, the first phase includes a 6-week ceasefire and an IDF withdrawal from densely populated areas in the Gaza Strip, and will focus on what is called a humanitarian hostage exchange, i.e. a hostage exchange that focuses on the release of women, children, elderly, and injured in the Gaza Strip, in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. It's noteworthy, however, that Biden did not state the amount of hostages that will be released, and this is important because this has been a source of controversy between the sides in the past and has actually led to a breakdown in negotiations in the previous rounds. In addition, Biden added that during the first phase, Palestinian civilians will be permitted to return to the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, which has been another source of controversy in previous negotiations, and also added that humanitarian aid would rise up to 600 trucks per day that would enter the Gaza Strip during this first phase. In addition, during the first 6 weeks, Israel and Hamas will negotiate in order to come to terms about Phase 2 of the agreement, which was defined as a permanent end of hostilities. The negotiators, that is the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, according to Biden, are going to continue to facilitate negotiations during this first phase and leading into the second phase. Importantly, Biden stated that while the details have not been fully worked out and are still being to be negotiated about the second phase, the proposal states that if at the end of 6 weeks the negotiations have not been completed, the ceasefire will continue as long as negotiations continue, i.e. even if during the first 6 weeks negotiations are not concluded in order to bring about the permanent end to hostilities, the ceasefire can continue beyond the 6 weeks as long as the negotiations are continuing. I'll say more about this later. According to Biden, during the second phase, all the remaining hostages in the Gaza Strip, that is, both IDF male soldiers as well as all IDF male civilians, will be released, presumably in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. However, Biden did not state that explicitly. And in addition, the IDF will carry out a complete withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. Biden emphasized that in the Israeli proposal, it is explicit that if Hamas lives up to its terms, then the temporary ceasefire, i.e. the temporary part of Phase 1, will become a, quote, cessation of hostilities permanently. In Phase 3, according to Biden, the major reconstruction plans in the Gaza Strip will commence. This includes major U.S. investment and international investments, and there will also be an exchange of bodies that are held by Hamas, again, presumably in exchange for bodies that are held by Israel. After presenting the proposal, Biden continued in his speech. He appealed to the citizens of Israel and assured them that they can support the deal because the Hamas forces have been devastated over the past 8 months, adding, and I quote, "At this point, Hamas is no longer capable of carrying out another October 7th. Biden added that the aim of stopping Hamas or denying Hamas of having the ability to carry out another October 7th attack has been one of the righteous aims of Israel in the war. However, he added that has already been achieved. He also added that he is aware that there are some elements in Israel, including members of the Israeli government, who want the war to continue and to occupy Gaza. After stating that those elements do not view hostages as their priority, he also directly challenged Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's repeated claims of achieving total victory, stating, and I quote, "Indefinite war in pursuit of an undefined notion of total victory will only bog down Israel in Gaza." He added that this will not increase Israel's safety, will drain Israel economically and its military resources, and will further Israel's isolation in the world. Biden listed the ways in which he has proven his commitment to Israel's security, including mentioning how he personally sent forces to defend Israel against Iran's attack, asking Israelis to take a step back and think what will happen if this moment is lost, later referring to normalization potentials between Israel and Saudi Arabia, as well as Israeli integration within the region. In his concluding remarks, Biden stated that the world must demand of Hamas to agree to the framework and end the war that the movement itself started, and he concluded by stating that it's time to end the war and begin the day after. In response to Biden's speech, Hamas put out a statement stating that it views the proposal favorably, adding that the movement is prepared to discuss in a positive and constructive manner any proposal that is based on a complete ceasefire, complete IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, rebuilding, restoring internally displaced Palestinians, and completing a serious hostage exchange. In Israel, a statement was put out by the Israeli Prime Minister's office, and I will say that the mere putting out of that statement after the entrance of the Sabbath on Friday night is unusual in Israel. Customarily, the office would have waited 24 hours, however, it was put out immediately. In the statement, in response to what Biden said, that this is an Israeli proposal that lays out these terms, Netanyahu's office stated that the Prime Minister instructed Israel's negotiating team to propose a framework to reach the aims of hostage release, while insisting that the war will not end until Israel has achieved its goals. These goals, according to the statement, include returning the hostages and destroying Hamas's military and governing capabilities. The statement added, and I quote, "The exact framework proposed by Israel, including the conditional moving from phase to phase, allows Israel to maintain these principles, i.e. those principles of both returning hostages as well as destroying Hamas's military and governing capabilities." That's it in terms of what has been published in official statements. However, I will say in a few moments of analysis, several things need to be noted with regards to what was said. First, in what was published by President Biden, there was no mentioning of what would be the governing apparatus of the Gaza Strip in the future. Israel has in the past raised the possibilities of local administration as well as regional Arab states being involved. The United States has raised the possibility of the Palestinian Authority being involved. Hamas clearly demands that they will be the ones that restore their own government. Biden did not state anything about that. That is likely going to be part of the negotiations leading to the second phase. Israel, however, has said that destroying Hamas's governing capabilities is one of the conditions for the war. In addition, and perhaps more importantly, at this stage it may be that one of the reasons that Israel has seemingly agreed to this proposal is a built-in failsafe that Biden himself even implied. When it comes to what happens after the first 6 weeks of the truce, i.e. phase 1, Biden stated that the truce can continue until phase 2 is negotiated. However, his exact words were that the ceasefire will continue as long as negotiations continue. Now, if we take this within context of what the Israeli Prime Minister's office explicitly said, they said that the war will not end until Israel has achieved its goals, and added, the conditional moving from phase to phase allows Israel to maintain these principles, i.e. that the war will not end until Israel has achieved its goals. So, it is very possible that what Israel has explicitly stated in its proposal is that yes, the ceasefire can be extended between phase 1 and phase 2. However, this is conditional upon the negotiations continuing, and theoretically, if either side says that the negotiations have broken down after phase 1, it is possible that this is a loophole that allows the fighting to resume. That said, it's also equally important to note that Hamas will not agree to a deal if it has such a built-in mechanism that allows the fighting to resume. Hamas has been very explicit about the fact that it is not going to agree to any deal that has in it loopholes that allow the fighting to continue and do not have international guarantees that lead to a ceasefire and an end to the war. Again, it is very possible that all this is going to still be negotiated. However, it is important to note those minute points because they are likely to be the make or break of the deal. The deal seems to be something that Biden is saying Israel has agreed to and is calling upon Hamas to agree to it also. However, it is also very likely that what Israel has agreed to is a deal that has these fail-safe mechanisms, and very likely Hamas will not agree to those fail-safe mechanisms. Maybe this will be negotiated, maybe not, but it is far from a done deal at this point. On a final note, I also want to say that I want to thank all my viewers that have written in asking if everything's okay and wondering where I've disappeared to in the last weeks. In a moment of full disclosure, I'm going to say that my father's medical condition has vastly deteriorated in the past 2 weeks. I've been traveling back and forth across the world in order to try to help the situation. I am again traveling tomorrow on Saturday and will be in Israel for the next month. I'm going to return to regular summaries and analyses about the war as soon as I can. Again, I thank all the followers that have expressed their concern, and I promise to return as soon as possible. With that, that's it for my brief summary on Biden's plan for today. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm Alon Burstein. I'm a visiting assistant professor and Israel Institute fellow in the Department of Political Science at the University of California, Irvine. See you next time.